everybody? Welcome back. This is Mark's here, and we are back into Unconditional Surrender. It is October 1940. Just wanted to remind everyone that if you want to check out the comments section, either if you're on Board Game Geek or on YouTube, usually there's people talking about my rules goofs. I don't generally talk about rules a lot in my videos, so if you're looking for any mistakes I'm making or corrections to mistakes I've made, they'll be in the comment section. That being said, I think I would just like to issue a quick reminder that I am playing with what I'm calling an alternate history what-if scenario by breaking the air support rule, in which the air unit can be of any nationality as the defending unit, well, provided that they're allies. In other words, allies can support each other's units with air support only in defense. So yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about that. I just want to make it clear that this is me changing a parameter of the simulation in order to see the effects on the overall game and how it affects the narrative and the strategy. So far, it's been pretty awful awful, quote unquote, if you're rooting for the Germans anyway. But it's been very difficult for the German player because of all of the extra air units that are available for defense of France. I really feel that this game is designed in such a way that you can really make tweaks to the simulation and get all kinds of interesting effects. So this was just something that I decided to do early on before I had started filming. I just thought I'd touch on it so that people who don't read the comments or who are just enjoying the videos are aware of what's been going on in that front. I mean, there might be further updates as to rules I'm doing or this and that, the other thing. I'm going to try to stick to the gameplay and the playthrough aspect of it, but you never know, these things might pop up. And thanks again for all the support. It's been great seeing that people love this game as much as I do, and getting everyone's thoughts on what I'm doing and how I'm playing has been just wonderful. Across the whole of Europe, the weather takes a turn for the worse. Looking at poor. Just a quick correction from the last video. I forgot to flip this guy over after the replacement phase or during the replacement phase. So he should be at full strength. Here he is in just southwest of Le Havre. Now the Axis is going to decline to declare war on any countries again this turn. The only place, well, I mean not the only place, but strategically where it would be to the Axis advantage for declaring war would be down here in the Balkans, but right now politically they don't have the allies to successfully make a play for the Balkans on their own. So I think we're just going to carry on and see how the political game plays out at the end of the turn. Also, once we get into the operations, we'll be talking a little bit about the overall strategy this turn. Just a quick look at the production here. Germany sitting at 26, UK sitting at 18, and France is down to 10 due to the fact they've lost a lot of their factories in the current war effort. The British have lost 3 factories of total. We'll go to the strategic war phase and see what happens there. Well, the Germans failed to do anything effective, and the British have gained a factory once again. Germany didn't have use of their submarines once again. They don't get them back until next February, so quite a few months away. They do have that air unit in the North Sea, but it's just not having the effect it is, or the effect that they want on British production. Strategic movement for the Axis. I think the Axis are just going to complete their strategic move up in Finland, but they don't have any troops or units that they are going to move at this time. Same theory for the Soviets. They don't have anything that they are willing to move at this point, so they complete their strategic move into Karelia. I kind of glossed over the Western faction's strategic move, but they declined to do any move at all, so we can move on. All right, here we are now in the Axis operations phase. We're just having a quick look and discussing the plan for this turn. I think what we're going to do is move this first Panzer, and we're going to focus our attack on the southeast of France here. Get out of range of those British air units and effectively eliminating their zone that they can operate out of. But like I said, we're going to attempt a assault on Dijon here with the 1st Panzer Army. Poor weather though, so that's going to have a real bad effect on the attackers. Poor weather in some ways is worse than severe, I find, just because it only affects the attackers, it doesn't affect the defenders, which I guess makes sense. The defenders don't have to move, they can stay in their dug-in positions, they don't have to be pushing their way through mud or snow or anything like that to try and advance. Severe weather, however, affects everybody. And this is the mild zone, is it? Yes, we're in the mild zone. Anyway, but that is the plan for this turn. I'm not sure about doing any assaults on the Maginot Fort there in Strasbourg. But, like I said, I think that's the main bulk of this plan for this turn. Actually, come to think of it, the Panzer unit doesn't have enough movement points to do an attack in Dijon. So I think what we're going to do is advance the 1st Army, and we'll just do an assault with our infantry armies here. So the 1st Army advancing south towards Dijon, and the assault we're going to do, it's going to look a little bit like this, and here. Also, we're going to activate the 16th Army here just to rotate around the Maginot Fort in Strasbourg, just limiting where that unit can retreat to if it does indeed decide to retreat. Actually, if we went here instead, that would give it no retreat hex. Do I want to perform an assault there? Let me think about that for a moment. I think the Germans will pass at this time on an assault into Strasbourg. With the weather, it just doesn't seem like a good idea. Actually, we're going to rotate this guy around as well. That puts the Germans down to 19 production points currently. I suppose the Germans are just doing a reactionary strategy this turn due to the crappy weather. But I do want to take advantage of having that Panzer Army, so we're going to use it for an assault against the French 9th across the river there. Just want to do something to feel like I'm doing something productive. I think we'll advance. Do we want to advance this guy over? I think why not? So that's another 1, 2, 3, 4 production points down. We're going to call this guy finished. And I think we can resolve an assault here. We'll resolve this one and see how it goes. Now, luckily, the Germans decided to use their 2nd Luftwaffe in the assault here, and the British sent in the fighter command from London, but one of their sorties was occupied due to the, good luck by the British, so they're both going to be able to participate in the defense of the Hex, but just want to point out that the British did lose an extra sortie in the initial attack. And as a result of the attack, there is no effect. The French 9th Army managed to fend off the attack. Let's just mark these units as finished for this turn. Moving on to the assault of Dijon here, we're going to activate the 3rd Luftwaffe wing and the 1st French Air Force to participate in the battle. Let's work out the results of their initial airstrikes. Alright, both air wings are going to be able to participate in the battle. No one took any extra sortie hits. Let's resolve the assault. In an evenly matched battle, the Germans failed to make any headway, and they did not manage to do any damage to the French 4th Army defending Dijon. Let's show that these guys are done their activation for this turn. That only leaves the 2nd German infantry army and the 12th here on the Western Front anyway. Oops. Oh boy. So jumpy sometimes. That's it for the Germans' activation on the Western Front here. I think we're going to be, doing a little bit of rebuilding as long as the weather is crappy. And let's look at getting our air units built up a bit, but again, leaving them open for use in defense just in case. So that was our mistake, one of our mistakes last month, but I don't think we'll make that again. I did consider the idea of just assaulting the enemy air units just to reduce them, but I thought, nah, I need those units in defense. So anyway, I think let's move over. I will show you some little fiddling I'm going to be doing. We're just going to advance the Norway army further east, closer to the Russian border, just putting them in a better position for any potential conflict that could be coming our way. At the same time, I think the Axis wants to utilize some of these Swedish armies, so they're going to be heading east, slowly but surely. 2, 3, 4, 5, moving up through Sweden proper itself, and that guy that's occupying Bergen over in Norway, let's send him 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is the fastest way? Probably this way. So heading up here through Trondheim probably next turn, but it's going to be a slow march to get ourselves over to Russia. For any potential, I'm doing air quotations, potential conflict that quote unquote could be coming. While we're at it, let's shuffle some German units around in Poland. We're going to advance this guy up to the border. What? He would be done. And then this guy here, let's advance him up to Brest, or just over the River Bug, looks like. What? And then, do I want to move up an air unit? I think this guy's going to rebase. Well, wait a second. There's nobody covering this side of the border here. I suppose, let us just advance this guy. Not very good unit. I don't know if I want to leave Warsaw open like that, though. Maybe this guy. He'll go and guard this border here. I mean, the Soviets can't attack us yet, and I definitely want to get myself into a better position before I even think about doing any shenanigans on the Eastern Front. Actually, we'll also advance this first garrison unit up to the Soviet border. Here in this mountain range, that's a good defensive position there. If we could only get Romania to join our side here, that would sure help as far as an assault on the Soviet Union is concerned. Alright, I think we'll call it an end to the German or Axis operations phase here. Again, they didn't accomplish, well, any of their objectives for this month, and the commanders are a little bit perturbed at this point. Oh, this guy still has a retreat hex, so that's okay. Yeah, I just noticed that. So yeah, the German commanders are miffed at the moment that there's no significant chunks being taken out of the French line. So let's move on. Supply, actually everything looks fine. Nobody is buried behind any lines or anything like that. So moving on to the Western operations phase now. For the Western's operation, I think we're going to play it pretty cool this round. We're not going to make any attacks or moves right now. Our line is pretty well established. Actually, one thing we should do is we're just going to back this guy up a little, because that British Expeditionary Force in Le Havre has no retreat hex currently, so let's just withdraw him west a few miles, giving us some space. Yeah, like I was saying, there's no real moves or attacks I want to make. Just because of the poor weather, we are going to be in a crappy position to try and push back any Germans. So while this is a disadvantage for the Germans on the assault side, it definitely doesn't help the Western faction with trying to regain any ground that it lost. So, sticky situation still doesn't look great for France at this point. All right, for supply, we got to supply these 2 mobile units for the British. We're going to be using this convoy once again. Now, it's maxed out currently. We've got some cash to burn this time. We didn't activate any units, so we should have no problem rearming or getting these guys back up to operational levels. We do, I mean, we're pushing it as far as our supply is concerned. There's a convoy here with 3 sorties on it, so it's still okay. And plus there's a few convoys around the Mediterranean. I think, is there one in Gibraltar? No. Yes, there is. There's one in Gibraltar, and there's one convoy still in the Suez that we could call back to the coast of France to help supply. So, you know, I guess we're actually doing fine. Moving on to the Soviet faction's operations phase, I think it's about time we start shuffling some units around. We're going to begin with this guy sitting in Odessa, the 8th Infantry Army. They're going to advance to the Romanian border here. And then the 7th Army here in Kishinev, they are going to, 3, 4, I think, make their presence known on the, well, I guess the former Hungary border here. Do I have enough to get there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, okay. Just enough. Now let's also move. You know what, I think? You know what? Yeah, we're going to advance this guy. What? Everyone's having a what fight. He's going to leave Lvov, which is a good strategy, I find. If you're forced into retreat, you're retreating into a city, which is a better defensive position. This guy's got mountain range and a hills hex in order to add to their defensive bonus here. And this puny little garrison, the Russians aren't afraid of that. Anyway, let's see. Maybe there's a few moves we can make up more so in the northern Polish area. Alright, definitely want to be moving the 13th Army down here to cover the Lithuanian border here. Our borders are pretty well protected, and we do have quite a bit of reserves. I guess let's move this guy in just to a better reserve position. Let's say here, Kaunas. That's not a bad position there. Actually, we'll go here. And then we're going to activate the 9th Army. They're going to advance and take up the spot in Vilnius. Sorry. Actually, I think they're going to stack with this air unit here. And they can hang out there. Alright, so just kind of shuffling around, getting a better defensive position set up for what appears to be the incoming German assault. That being the end of the operations phase for all of the factions, we're going to proceed to replacements. We're going to be replacing these air units here, these air units here, these ones here, getting that guy back up to operational level. But I guess we'll see where we're sitting at for production points. Everyone's still got quite a bit. I mean, Germany's got 11 left. Ooh, that's not a lot, is it? Well, just enough to do that and still have enough for diplomacy. The Brits are at 17, so they're doing quite fine. France has only got 10. But that's enough to, well, yeah, that's enough to get, see how they jump around? Look at that. They're like Mexican jumping beans. They've got enough to send replacements to those 2 wings and to get this guy fully operational. So let's do all that. Here's a look at the readiness situation now. A lot of these air units are almost at, well, not a lot of them, but these guys, they're almost at full combat capability here. Germans are working their way up as well, and the British, they've been busy, but they're working their way up as well. That convoy unit, we did manage to resupply, and the Britons have just enough production points to participate in diplomacy this turn. It was very tight for them, but they managed to pull it off. So let's move on. All right, sitting now in the mobilization phase. We're looking at Germany. They've got a couple units in their box there, but they are currently at 5 production points at the moment, which means they have a choice. They can either remobilize these 2 units at this time or participate in diplomacy this turn. Now, I don't think at this point, especially with the poor weather, we can do without those units at this point. And we definitely don't want to give up on diplomacy this round. So those units are going to have to stay where they are at the moment. France, that guy you can see there, they can remobilize. And the Alps army, they're going to remobilize here in Lyon. Geez, I hate that. They realize the weak spot there, especially with the potential of a Axis airdrop. So that pretty much eliminates that. Oh my god. That eliminates that option for the Axis. So well played by the French. Now we're into diplomacy, and the German High Command, they're really pushing to get some allies to join their side, but this time they have pulled a no event. Nobody is willing to join the Axis or even have any kind of leaning towards the Axis side, so not great once again. Now over here in Great Britain, they are deciding to dip their toe into the diplomatic pool, so to speak, but they have suffered the same fate as the Axis faction this turn. No effect. Nobody willing to swing to either side at this point. Far to the east in Moscow, the Soviet High Command as well tries to get some countries to sway towards their side, but they also suffered the same problem. Nobody is willing to join any sides right now. That puts us at the end of the October 1940 turn. We're going to be advancing into November. The Western faction gets a ground support marker, and the 11th Infantry Army for Germany will be coming in soon. All right, let's move right ahead into November 1940. The weather has taken a turn for the worse in the mild zone. It has moved into the severe. We've got some major winter storms happening, but in the warm zone, it has gone back to fair weather. No change for the cold zone. There will be no new declarations of war from the German High Command this turn. They are highly occupied in France. All right, a quick look at the production for November turn. Germany sitting at 26, UK at 20, France at, this should be 10. And the USSR at 28. Also, there's Sweden and Finland over there with 2 each. There was a factory loss added during the strategic warfare phase for the United Kingdom, so that is not great. So I was thinking about strategically moving one of those Swedish units. But then I remembered that they are not allowed to be in Finland, which is where they were going to be heading. So I think for now I'm just going to leave them in that position. But are there any other eligible places for a strategic move for the Axis? I don't think so. And I think the same goes for the other factions. Nobody really wants to move anyone at a long distance at this time. Everyone's in a fairly good position, it looks like. All right, let's move right into the German operations phase for November. We're going to rebase this German air unit out of Bergen. It was participating in the strategic warfare, but I think at this point we're going to repurpose it for assisting in the invasion of France. I mean, the weather is severe this turn, so I'm thinking for the Germans, we're probably just going to be shuffling things around, not attacking too much, I don't think. Anyway, let's rebase this guy from Bergen down here to the west of Bremen. And then one more rebase from Bremen down to, I think, Metz here. And that will put them in a much better position to participate. Hopefully the weather will change, because at this point, severe weather, air support ain't going to do anything. But let me think for a second. just thinking that maybe it might be a good idea to send an air wing just to attack the French air wing, just to see if I can cause some damage. But with the severe weather, we'd have to roll extremely well, and the Allies would have to roll extremely bad in order for it to have much of an effect. So I think for now we'll save our sorties. Yes, all is quiet on the Western Front in November here. I don't think we're going to make any moves or attacks. Everybody is in a good position. Actually, this first army, now they've got an eligible retreat hex here, but the French wouldn't dare. Anyway, this way it's going to give us an opportunity to build up our air sorties. I keep saying us and we. The Axis is what I'm referring to. The Axis will be able to build up their sorties. As well, they've got 3 units in the mobilization box, so let's save up our cash for that. Let's look at the operations phase for the Western faction. I'm not seeing any potential attacks going on. Again, with the severe storms going on, it puts a huge damper on our attack capability as well. No air support makes it extremely difficult to try and make any advances. So yes, all is quiet on the Western Front. This does look a lot like World War I. Yes, no changes or any moves for the Western Allies this turn. Actually, let me go over. I would like to show you something. Just a review of some of the places that the Germans have some garrisons. They've got one in Munich, Bremen, and one over in Denmark. They don't have anything up in Scandinavia, but they do have another 3 garrisons based out of Poland. Here, here, and here. Now, just showing you that because these are extra units. They're not great for any kind of combat capabilities. I think they're best off in defense, but just a kind of a review of where we've got some reserves set up. The Eastern Front here, the Axis, they don't have a lot of build-up yet, although still up in Scandinavia they've got a German army plus with the assistance of the Finnish army. I'd like to have more units there, to be honest, but everybody is busy in France. And a review of what's going on in the East. Soviet operations, they're not going to be moving around anything either in the snow. It's not as bad weather in the poor zone, or sorry, in the cold zone. It's just poor. But again, with no aggressive action taken against them from the Axis, they are sitting there with their hands tied, hopefully keeping them warm anyway. All right, we're going to move on to the replacements phase for the Axis. They're going to spend 9 production points to resupply all of these air wings, putting them at much better combat effectiveness and ready for hopefully some better weather next month. Although, where's the mild zone? Yeah, December to February, guaranteed poor. There's going to be no, or guaranteed poor and severe. There's going to be no fair weather for at least a few more months. Yeah. Perhaps if the next turn they save up some money, they can repurchase their surprise attack marker. The Axis, that is. And now for the Western factions replacement phase. First of all, we'll start with France. They are replenishing these troops in Lyon, and they are also going to replenish the 1st Air Force based near Vichy. All right, now for the Brits, they're going to spend quite a bit of their production on replenishing a lot of their units. This 1st Air in England here, this guy in London, the 1st Fighter Command. We're going to replenish this convoy unit based out of Brest, and as well underneath the British Expeditionary Force. The 1st convoy, they are now up to 2 sorties. That costs the Britons quite a bit of cash, but they still have just enough to keep up with the diplomacy this turn. Seeing as no one did much actions, nobody spent any money this turn, which the Axis is glad for. They can now mobilize these eliminated units, the 2nd Panzer Army, the 11th and 17th Infantry Armies. All right, I think the 2nd Panzers are going to base themselves out of Frankfurt. And for the 2 infantry armies, I was thinking that the Axis is going to mobilize some more troops on the eastern front there. First, a guy in Königsberg. I think I'm saying that right. If not, it sounds cool that way. And I was thinking, you know, I seeded this area. Can I play a troop there now? But I thought, you know what, I didn't feel like looking it up, but I'm sure someone who's watching this will know the exact thing. But for now, I'm just going to place them in Breslau, where they will be ready for the Eastern Front, the upcoming Eastern Front campaign. Now, the Western faction and the Soviet faction do not have any units to mobilize at this point. Now we're into the dreaded diplomacy phase, and it's the Axis turn. They pulled the pro-Axis marker, which is really good for them, but it puts us in a tough spot of making a proper decision here. What we have to think about is we've got Romania, who is pro-Axis right now. We could get them to join us immediately. Us being the Axis. I don't know why I do that. Not everybody can be us. The Axis. Romania could join the Axis. That's option 1. Option 2, right now there's a pro-Western marker on Spain. We could remove that, thereby removing the Western's influence over Spain at the moment, and giving us a little bit of safety there, because, I mean, Spain can't really enter the war specifically right now, unless they have a navy. Do they have a navy? Just a second here. Just looking at their counters here. I don't think they have a navy to speak of, but I mean they do. Oh wait, oh no. They've got some what if tokens, but Spain can't really enter the war. They can't really join the French at the moment. But if the Axis were able to conquer France, then the Spanish could then cross the French border into Vichy, France, and put some boots on the ground that way. Okay, blah, blah, blah. That was option 2. Option 3 is Italy. Now, they're just sitting there with no influence currently. We could throw that on Italy, giving the Axis a better shot at getting him. But the other problem with this is the remaining tokens that are in the cup. I'll show you, but I'll explain it. It's there's 2 political successes, political failure, a couple no events, and an area C. So 2 chances out of 6 are going to be a political success, which could overthrow any decision we make, aside from the Romania thing. But you know what? I think in this case, because there's political failure in there, I think we're going to go ahead and put this on Italy. Just because if either, depending on what the Western faction does, they could draw that political failure, and we could activate Italy on the side of the Axis, which we really need right now. The Axis really needs. So that's what we're going to do. So pro-Axis, Italy. Now, this is always kind of terrifying for the Western faction, as well as the USSR faction. I'm pretty sure if Italy activates on the side of the Axis, the Mediterranean crisis event activates, and a whole bunch of other stuff happens. So, all right, Great Britain on the mission of diplomacy throughout Europe. Their first token was the area seized token, which is no longer valid, so it is removed from the game permanently, and they are allowed to draw another one, maybe another attempt. But alas, no event. All right, back east into Moscow. Now, they're not really interested in having Italy join the Axis at this time either. They can see that the buildup is starting to happen on the Eastern Front. So they decided to pull from the cup, and OMG, no event. This puts the Axis in a great position next turn to draw one of those political successes. There are only 3 items in the cup. 2 out of 3 are successes. That means pretty good chance for Italy to join the Axis, which, oh boy, man, this diplomacy stuff is always very exciting. Anyway, let's move on. Just want to say that the Russian political meddling here didn't really help the situation at all. They actually seem to make it worse. I mean, same for the Western faction. That didn't help anything at all. So, kind of shooting both of themselves in the foot with this so-called diplomacy that they've been attempting. All right, the end of November 1940. We're going to get some upgraded units for the French here. Oh, look at German tanks to be used for their allies. I guess that could be the Finnish at this point. What else we got? Oh, the Africa Corps upgraded mobile infantry. Oh dear, and another Panzer Army. Yum yum. December 1940, here we come. All right, that is the end of November 1940. And we're going to put an end to the video, I think, at this point. I'm not even sure where we're at for time-wise, but I decided that I wanted to slam in 2 months on this video. Basically, you know, not a lot happened anyway. The biggest thing that happened in November was the political leanings of Italy towards the Axis side. Other than that, a lot of rebuilding and reinforcing in the Western Front. And yeah, and also a little bit of build-up on the Eastern Front. So on a side note, I guess I just want to explain/complain about the fact that this video is probably seeming scattered, especially it was kind of took me a long time to get around to getting any footage just because I'd been busy working, and night shift was difficult to try and maintain somewhat of a family life and work life and then gaming life at the same time. So basically blah blah blah, having a lot of time, blah blah blah. I really do want to change the format. I was mentioning that in the last video, and I feel like maybe I'm just focusing a little bit too much on the minutiae of things, but I mean, we'll see. It seems like people are enjoying these videos for the most part, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I might switch it up for a bit, and maybe I'll go back to doing it the way I've been doing it. I don't know. This sounds very familiar to the last video anyway. Also, yeah, just a reminder, if you made it this far, that I'm playing a different set of rules to simulate a different set of possibilities that could have happened. And this is my alternate history, and it's playing a little differently for the Axis, that's for sure. I mean, it's painfully obvious how much an effect that these air units have on assisting in the defense of France by, being allowed to support French units. I'm still going to go with it, though. I think it's a cool way of throwing a different variable into the simulation. And I guess I should have explained it more at the beginning, but I'm not very focused. So anyway, I did move an air unit down from Norway. We're not going to get that awesome bonus for strategic warfare, but what I thought about it was that what did I think about it? At this point in the game, taking over France is the main goal here. I shouldn't be worrying about strategic warfare. It was nice eliminating some of the British factories at first, but come on, man. We got to keep our eyes on the prize here, right? Also, another problem with me feeling a little bit scattered and unfocused in the gameplay, there's a few dumb moves I made that, I kind of wish I could go back and have a do-over. Like, for instance, this French air unit, they should be closer to the front to be able to support this fort. There's nobody there to support it. No air units anyway. And also, yeah, not taking advantage. I know it was severe weather this turn, but this guy's now isolated, and yeah, that would have been better shot at trying to crack that fort open, but I just kind of, I don't know, I guess maybe I was in a hurry, or I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to keep the mistakes, the tactical mistakes at the very least. I mean, if I make, really awful rules mistakes, I'll try and correct them. And most likely people will find my mistakes. The hive mind, as I've seen it called, um, which is fine. But I mean, if they're just little dumb things, I'm like, probably I'll just leave it, especially if it's tactical errors or whatnot. I mean, throughout the real war, tactical errors, I'm sure, were made constantly. So I'm not innocent, and I'm certainly not a, German general. So whatever. It's just a game. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for all the support. I love making these videos. I hope I can get another one out soon. Please stay tuned, and thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.